Stugotz here for Upside.com. I've been talking a lot about Upside.com, telling you it will save your company big on business travel and that you'll get a big gift card every trip you buy. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, in less than 2 minutes, they gave me a few awesome choices on United and American for flights to Chicago that work for me and a bunch of big-name hotels. The first option got me a $200 gift card and saved the company nearly $400. Then they showed me options for a flight an hour earlier or a stay at the same kind of hotel down the block. I'd get even more in gift cards, and the trip cost the company even less. Taking a business trip? You'd be crazy not to use Upside. Upside's the real deal. Got me a gift card for $200. Trust me, go to Upside.com today. Plus, when you use promo code Dan, you are guaranteed to get at least a $100 Amazon gift card your first trip. That's code Dan to get a $100 gift card free. Save big on travel and get a big gift card every trip. See what your next trip is worth today. Upside.com. That's Upside.com. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
This is the best of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Dominique Foxworth sitting in with me today. Le Batard is on his final day of vacation. We appreciate Dominique coming down, filling in. Dan is back in the United States. Dominique spent some time with him yesterday. I say that because there are times when he leaves the show where we all wonder whether or not Dan's going to come back, but he is back, and he's excited to come back and do the show with us tomorrow. A lot of interesting stuff to get into today. First off, we have Jonathan Goldsmith, who is the original most interesting man in the world, those Dos Equis commercials. He will join us at 11 o'clock.
We got Jared Allen coming, too. The real most interesting man in the world.
All right, put it on the poll at Le Batard Show on Twitter. Who's more interesting? The most interesting man in the world or Jared Allen?
I mean, he's an actor pretending to be interesting. You know who's jumped out of plane? Jared Allen. You know who's eaten poisonous blowfish? Jared Allen. You know who retired on horseback? Jared Allen.
Right.
Who's got more sacks? Jared Allen.
Riding into a sunset where there was no sun.
Hey, whatever. How interesting is that?
Right.
How many people do you know can ride into a sunset when there's no sun?
Well, how do you know that Jonathan Goldsmith is not a guy who was jumped out of an airplane?
We'll ask him. We'll find out.
So you're wondering if the most interesting man in the world is just an act? Because I think it's based on him being really interesting.
Wondering?
You don't think he's interesting? The real most interesting man, the real person behind the character, you don't think he's interesting?
He's an actor.
Put it on the poll. Do you think he's interesting? Do you think the most interesting man in the world is interesting? Yes or no? At Le Batard Show on Twitter.
He's not really living this life. He's not real in these streets. He's a studio gangster. We all know it. I'm going to call him out when he gets on here, studio gangster.
He is a guy, though, because I was doing some research on him last night.
You led the show promoting him, not Jared Allen. The real most interesting man in the world.
I'm telling you, if someone in Bristol told me today you could have Steph Curry at 11 o'clock, I would not bump the most interesting man for Steph Curry.
Well, Steph Curry doesn't seem that interesting either, but he's probably more interesting than the most interesting man.
But he's also a guy, because we were talking local hour about the 30 for 30 last night, Lakers Celtics. It's fantastic. 3-part series. You had parts 1 and 2 last night, 2 hours, 8 to 10 last night, and then you had part 2 last night. Part 3 is tonight. We were talking about Pat Riley and how he's gotten better looking with age. Much like myself, he has gotten better looking with age. Jonathan Goldsmith is one of those guys. Jonathan Goldsmith, if you look at pictures when he was young, not nearly as good looking as he is now. And Pat Riley, I am telling you, Pat Riley right now has never been better looking ever in his entire life than he is at this very moment. That guy has aged well, man.
Pat Riley, also more interesting than the most interesting man in the world. I really feel like you, the whole shipping container, more interesting. Like, I think we could go story for story with that guy and crush him. He's not that interesting.
Fat Chris, do you think the most interesting man in the world is actually interesting? The real person, Jonathan Goldsmith. Do you think he's actually interesting? We'll ask him.
I'm with Dominique. I think he cannot be as interesting as his character, as that character is the most interesting man in the world.
Right. It's impossible.
It's going to be a letdown.
When you're
overrated.
when your character, Guillermo, you're with him? Overrated? Not that interesting?
He's just going to be a guy. I mean, he might be a cool guy, but this guy, no, he's not.
Overrated. Overrated.
So is Jared Allen.
What?
Whoa. Did I say that? Sorry.
Say it to his face.
I will not. Roy, do you think he's interesting?
No, this is going to be a letdown.
Really?
Overrated. Overrated.
I'm very much looking forward to having him on.
That's good promotion right there.
Yes, very good.
You should go into this with no expectations,
Right.
And then it can only exceed that.
I'm interested in the story, in how he got the job and how it changed his life. I'm really interested in that because it did change his life.
If you gave me a lifetime to come up with reasons to stick around and listen to that interview,
Right.
I would die before I came up with any reasons.
No, that's not fair. No,
Yeah.
it's going to be a good interview.
Thanks.
11 o'clock, right?
Yes. I like what Dominic's doing, though. He is lowering the expectations because I have them in such a lofty place. So he is lowering those expectations.
I think I'll do this throughout the interview whenever he says something that's lame.
Right. Don't do that to him. I'm excited. This is as excited as I've ever been for a guest.
Jared Allen is much. I know Jared Allen not super well, but from some Players Association stuff and from his career, he's much more interesting, much more exciting. He's done cooler things. The man wears a cowboy hat.
Well, let me present this idea to you.
Him and Allison have the same jacket.
Should I should have let that sit for a second. Should I do the Jonathan Goldsmith interview by myself and then have Dominique do, because it appears that you have done your research on Jared Allen, I have not, have Dominique do the Jared Allen interview by himself. I mean, we'll both be here for each other in the event that we need one another. And then we will judge later in the show whose interview was more interesting, whose was better. Do you guys think that's a good idea or bad idea?
It's a bad idea.
Why?
It's not. No, it's a bad idea, Stugotz.
Because they don't want you to be in that competition and lose all your confidence after you lose. Because I got a better teammate.
All right.
Jared Allen, much better teammate.
Okay, that's fair.
Man's played on teams his whole life.
Yeah.
Played in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Most interesting man in the world doesn't know anything about teamwork.
I do.
He's a solo guy.
Right.
ISO Joe.
Well, he's never solo, man. I mean, he's always surrounded by beautiful women. Why? Because he's the most interesting man in the world.
Well, he has a new book, so he's doing the rounds. And I got a text from someone saying they saw him in an interview a couple days ago and he was interesting. So this now falls on you.
Wow. To make him interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the added pressure. He's an iconic commercial character, right? Like, probably the most iconic commercial character. Can you think of anyone else?
Don't we do progressive ads?
Flo from Progressive
Flo.
is certainly in that conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Where's the Beef lady. Remember her? She was iconic. I can't remember her name, but she was iconic.
The Taco Bell dog.
The taco, excellent.
The Dell guy who got fired, didn't he? Remember the guy who was doing...
Dude, you're getting a Dell.
Yeah, that
Isn't that Hodgman? His last name's Hodgman, that guy?
No, that's a different guy. That was the guy who played the Mac guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to remember the name to be iconic, though, right?
Does the ShamWow guy count, or is that more like an infomercial?
Wow, the sham guy. I think that counts. I mean, commercial's a commercial.
Do infomercials know how ridiculous they are? Are they like action movies? The best action movies are the ones that are aware that they're action movies and they don't try to be more. They're like, you want half-naked women, explosions, and violence, we'll give it to you. Do infomercials recognize, are they that self-aware, or like, you want someone tripping over stuff, doing normal tasks sloppily, and you want us to come in, and you also want us to lie about how you only have minutes left to get this deal, and you want us to hit you with that last minute add-on, like, and you'll get a paperclip holder. Like, do they? I feel like the best infomercials are the ones that know that they're infomercials and don't try to be more than that.
I do like the pressure they apply where you got like 20 seconds left. There's a clock on the screen. You got 20 seconds to go. And then they air the same infomercial on the same channel right after that one is done.
Does it work, though? Are there people out there?
Me. Yes. These guys know I'm a sucker for a good infomercial.
So when they put the little infomercial clock at the bottom, you're like, oh, that's real. I better call in or I'm not going to get my free paperclip holder.
Pick up. Someone needs a pickup. I only have 10 seconds left.
If you call in the next 60 seconds, you get 5 extra.
Yes. Have you ever purchased something off an infomercial? Never?
I think I picked up like some stupid golf item once, like some useless divot filler thing.
Right. I mean, I have bought real estate scams off of infomercials. I have purchased, I didn't know they were scams. They were sold as something that was going to make me a lot of money. They didn't. Mostly because I didn't read the books.
If they are infomercials and they say it's like a little known thing, don't you already know it's a scam because it's on television? Like, we got this secret and we'll only give it to you. like, I wouldn't share a real estate secret and they're like, we'll give it to you for $100. Like, you can make billions on real estate. Isn't that enough to let you know this is not worth it?
Only $29.99.
Right. Put it on the poll. If you had the secret to making millions, would you sell it to someone else for $29.99? You would think that would be a lot more valuable.
You would think.
Hey, I made billions doing this. I'm going to sell it to you for $29.99. It's a great point. Can you put that on the poll, Bill, at Batard Show on Twitter? If you had the secrets to making billions, would you sell those secrets for $29.99?
That's another infomercial thing that must be done, is that the first number can be whatever you want, but the rest of the numbers in the price must be nines. Don't you dare slide an 8 in there. Those are all nines. Got to be nines, or it's not a real infomercial.
Stu, you ever bought that magic seal?
Oh, man.
You can your boat could have a hole in it. And you just slide this thing across it, and your boat can.
The guy does it though.
Yeah.
I know he does.
You can't say it's not happening. He has a screen door. He paints them with magic seal.
I know.
Out on the water.
I didn't purchase that. I did purchase the. You guys remember this? It was the ab roller thing.
Yeah, the ab roller.
Body by Jake.
Yeah.
That actually works, but you have to actually use it. And I mean, based on what I'm seeing here, Stu, not sure that you ever actually used that puppy.
No, I actually brought it down to the studio here. Remember, I was going to do sit-ups during the commercial breaks.
Yeah, it's still here.
And no, it's not still here. They realized I was never going to do sit-ups during the commercial break, and someone threw it away.
When I was like towards the end of my career, my wife was in law school, so in the off season I'd go stay with her at law school and then go to the gym and work out. And I would occasionally, like every third time, I'd try to, like, I'm a smaller looking guy. I'd do something to let all those nerds know that I'm not one of you. So one of the things I would do is take the ab roller and put it, like, I'd lay horizontal to the ground, arms fully outstretched, holding the ab roller, and roll all the way up to my feet, rather than do the normal ab roller.
Right.
Just do ab rolls from a completely horizontal position up to your feet. It's a good move.
Show off.
It always got the attention, and I'd wait until some big guy in the gym is like doing, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 reps of 315 or something on the bench,
right?
And I'd let him finish, and without a warm up, slide under there, bang it out for like 6, get up and go do pull ups. I'm not one of you nerds.
I bought one of those ceiling sprays once, and I had to call poison control because I thought I poisoned myself.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
This is the least shocking thing I've heard all
So
day.
I have an admission. While I've never purchased anything from an infomercial, I have purchased things that say as seen on TV. Like, something about that feels better to me. Like, I'm not going to call your stupid number. Like, I'm not a rube that's falling for this trick. Like, oh, I only got 20 seconds, shut up. But if I'm in a store and it has the as seen on TV stamp on it, and then I remember that the commercial was dope and they followed all the infomercial rules, I'll slide them a couple of chips. Give me that.
In college, I worked at an as seen on TV store for a little bit, for like a month.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I don't think I've ever been in an as seen on TV store, but like I'll see something in Bed Bath & Beyond or something that'll say as seen on TV. It gets my attention.
I just learned the Flex Seal guy's brother lives in my community down here in South Florida. Yes, nice. The Flex Seal. What an odd thing. Nice. What an odd show.
You see him riding around in his boat with Flex Seal on it.
Dan Le Batard.
So I keep reading about whales and dolphins and blah, blah, blah. Then I stumble upon this great animal called the narwhal, which is essentially a unicorn whale. A unicorn whale.
What?
Google it.
Stugotz.
Oh, my God.
Narwhal.
Thank you.
Look at it. Life changer. Narwhal.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Catch Stu and Mike Golick Jr. every Sunday for Weekend Observations from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is brought to you by the free 18 Birdies app. Make your phone the best club in your bag. Before or after Stu's show, you can catch an even better show called The Morning Roast with me, Clinton Yates, and Mina Kine.
Yes.
It's longer, it's bigger, it's better.
Yes, it is. That's why it's on later.
Actually, Mike Golick Jr. has guested on our show a couple times to talk Bachelor and Bachelorette, because I don't watch that show, and
right.
Clinton and Mina love it. So Mike is tremendous. You also are great. However, I feel like you're kind of spent. And on the weekends, you just jump on Junior's back and go for a little ride for a couple hours.
You feel like I'm mailing it in on that show?
You're not mailing it in. You're just letting Junior shine is what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing. To be honest with you, that is what I'm doing.
Right, I know.
I'm trying to let him shine. I'm trying to let Mikey C., one of our producers, shine because I love those guys. And Golick's great at this. Like, Golick Jr. He's really good at this, and I'm lazy. And it's 7 o'clock in the morning. But there are times where Golick has been hungover and has not made the show. I have no problem saying that. No, he has. He didn't make the show. The entire show, 1 2-hour show, was me trying to find Mike Golick Jr.
He did that on purpose. It made for a great show.
Yes.
Why don't you stop throwing your teammate under the bus?
I think everyone knows that at this point.
Well, they don't need to be reminded.
Oh, it's okay. No one cares. It was fun. It was fun and funny. We had his dad on. His dad was reprimanding him on the air.
I think he did it on purpose. He did it on purpose in order to make for radio gold a memory.
It did.
Kind of like how sometimes you are lazy on purpose.
Unintentional radio gold.
Yes.
That's what it turned into.
Nicely done.
People are claiming, we're asking for iconic commercial characters because Jonathan Goldsmith, the original Most Interesting Man in the World, is coming on at 11 a.m. Eastern, and people are saying the number one commercial character by far is Mr. Whipple from the Charmin bathroom tissue commercials. Don't squeeze the Charmin. They're saying by far, like a landslide. He's number one. Now, I do have a list here where it does say that they rank him number one. They have the Most Interesting Man number 10 on their list. So, your thoughts last night. We talked about the 30 for 30, Lakers Celtics. I watched most of it. I got through the first 2 hours, which I thought was going to be boring and uninteresting. It turned out to me to be the most interesting parts because I learned stuff that I did not know headed into the film. I knew all the stuff. I lived through it. I mean, that's right in my wheelhouse. Lakers, Celtics, 80s, Bird, Magic, all of that. The first 2 hours was fascinating because it goes back to the 60s and Red Auerbach and Bill Russell and how those teams were formed, and then Dave Cowens and Havlicek for the Celtics in the 70s. What'd you take away from that?
It was
great. And part 3 is tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN.
There was so much. And I mentioned in the local hour how I went into a Pat Riley rabbit hole just because I didn't realize how interesting his life was and how much serendipity played into him becoming the guy that he is today. But I know we've all heard about how Magic and Bird kind of lifted the NBA's popularity, but I didn't realize how unpopular, I guess, the NBA or how much of a fledgling league it was.
Yeah.
Because they talked about in the 50s and early 60s about the Lakers driving around in a van and hopping out and doing basketball exhibitions as a way to try to attract fans. And they talked about how even though the Celtics were dominant in the 60s, how the stadium wasn't even full. And part of that was due to just bigotry they proposed in the series. But, I mean, it's just looking back on it, we see it all like nostalgically, and we don't really necessarily, especially those of us who didn't live through it, don't necessarily remember how like bad the NBA was.
Well, it's interesting because you did not live through it. I did. Did you find yourself yearning for that kind of competition? Because that's not, what you saw there with McHale clotheslining players and those guys fighting. There's a part where Dr. J and Larry Bird get in a fight, and Dr. J, he never got angry. But I believe Larry Bird told him to retire. Yeah. And Dr. J put his hands around Larry Bird's throat, and there was a big fight. Did you find yourself yearning for something closer to that? Because what you saw last night is certainly not today's NBA.
Yeah, so I am normally, when I hear old people or older sports fans hearkening back to those days when things were real and things were better, I'm normally dismissive and my point mostly is that people are generally the same as they were then. But what I didn't take into account is that the league was so much different. And I think the part of it being a fledgling league is people were less refined. They talked about how Red Auerbach went about getting Bill Russell, and it's just like he fleeced a bunch of different teams, which is super interesting. And also being part of being a fledgling league is the stars were kind of allowed to be a little bit more loose, and including the coach. Red Auerbach was lighting cigars on the sideline, taunting his opponents before the game was even over. And he even after the game, after they won one of, I think it was Auerbach's last title, he like openly taunted the Lakers. And these are things that I would love to have. And the fighting is one thing. I don't know that I would want to have that, but it is a cool thing. But these are things that we would never see in today's NBA because it's so cleaned up and so corporate now that they have some sponsors. Back then, they just wanted some attention.
To find us on a station near you, visit ESPN.com/ESPN Radio and click the station locator tab. Don Le Batard.
Yanni Adebabubu.
Stugotz.
Giannis Adebabumbumbo.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Dominic Foxworth sitting in with us today. We love having him. Le Batard is back tomorrow. Jonathan Goldsmith is the original most interesting man. He will join us at 11 o'clock. Jared Allen will join us at noon Eastern. Dominic loves the show and has listened to the show for a very long time. So at the height of the most interesting man, is Mike back yet? Roy, is he back in the studio yet? Mike's up in Bristol, by the way.
He is not.
He is not back. Roy, how long ago did we do these most inconsistent man in the world parodies? I guess.
Man, it felt like 5 years ago.
All right, let's give the audience. You have one ready? I want to give the audience a sampling because we have the most interesting man in the world, and at the height of his popularity, we thought it'd be a good idea to record me as the most inconsistent man in the world. Here's one of them.
He brags about having never been late to work, but then he leaves the show early for a fantasy draft. He does advertisements for testosterone boosters that he declares have improved his sex life, and then complains about his languishing sex life on the air. He says parenting is all luck, but then requests to leave the show early for a family dinner so he can set a good example for his children. He tells everyone how great he is at fantasy sports, only to reveal years later that he hired a guy named Inferno to draft all his teams. He is the most inconsistent man in the world.
I don't always have takes, but when I do, they're all over the place. Stay inconsistent, my friends.
We have several of those. I just want to play them back to 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 back. Maybe next segment we will. You had an interesting take during the break about the guys who narrated the Lakers Celtics 30 for 30 last night.
At this point, that I've gotten to the end of part 2, it felt like the Celtics had done better, but it was clear that the Lakers won the narration battle because the Lakers had Ice Cube narrating and the Celtics had Donnie Wahlberg. No disrespect, Donnie, but you're no Ice Cube.
No, a little lopsided LA's way there.
Yeah, it seems like LA's winning that one.
Well, who could have Boston gone with to maybe even that out a little bit? Because I'm with you. Like Donnie Wahlberg and Ice Cube. I mean,
his more famous brother.
Bobby Brown.
Matt Damon.
That was a blind spot for Stugotz there, that Bobby Brown.
Yeah. Who is the Boston equivalent of Ice Cube? Because even Mark Wahlberg does not even, makes it closer, but Ice Cube is still blowing him out by like 25, 30 points.
Everlast from House of Pain.
There he is. What are you doing up there? You're bouncing in and out of the studio. What is going on?
Mainly apologizing for our show up here. That's what I'm doing.
I don't think we're helping.
No. We're doing fine. We're fine.
I had a productive meeting with people that we put in difficult spots, like, talent bookers.
Right.
Basically, the people that booked the Christopher Guest interview. So I spent a good chunk of time apologizing for
Mike's
that.
been up in Bristol for 3 days just apologizing to people on behalf of the Dan Le Batard show.
Yeah, I actually would have been back sooner, but in the hallways walking back, I bumped into Timmy Kirkchin.
Oh, wow.
It was just always a delight. He's actually going to be joining us in studio at some point during the All-Star festivities.
Very nice. I do want to know who an in-studio appearance for Kirkchin. That's going to be fun.
You've never met him, have you?
I've never met, I've never met Tim Kirkchin. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've never met him. I'm assuming Dan's met him several
He's excited to meet you and sort of figure out if you're an idiot or an idiot savant.
Idiot savant. Put it on the poll. Stugotz, idiot or idiot savant? At Le Batard Show on Twitter. Mike, am I taller than Tim Kirkchin?
I think you are, yeah.
Okay. So
Nice.
There's one person out there.
We'll go head to head.
Okay. Because Mina Kimes was in last week, and she's taller than I am. by about a half inch.
She have bigger hands, too?
She has a longer reach.
Definitely a longer reach.
Yeah. She has long arms.
It's important.
Yes. I want to talk about, there's so much to get into about the 30 for 30 last night, but the one feeling I had, and we'll discuss it next, and we'll also play at least 3 more of those most inconsistent man in the world parodies. But I do want to talk about, I had this feeling because Riley's story, parts of it I was not aware of. How he got the Laker job, the fact that he was a television announcer, took that job over, didn't really want the job, was handed a Cadillac, and, 30 years later, we have a legend in Pat Riley, one of the legends of the NBA. And it got me to thinking how unimportant the head coach is in the NBA. He had zero experience. He had next to no experience and turned in to one of the most iconic figures in sports and one of the great head coaches and leaders that we have in the history of sports, any sport. We'll talk about it next.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU. Dan Le Batard.
This show's too hot for sports. It's too hot for America. Edgy and groundbreaking. Dangerous. With Kevin Arnovitz. The show's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to show up and be offended.
Stugotz.
Deion Sanders, are you a sex addict?
Okay, not my best work. Admittedly, not my best work.
Yeah.
Who'd you accuse of a drinking problem? That was Warren Moon.
Yeah, that was Warren Moon.
Who was eating children? Who was doing that? Who was eating children?
Patrick Willis.
Patrick Willis. I accused Patrick Willis, who was very serious about denying that he ever ate children.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Michael Strahan will join the show on Friday. Mike Tyson going to join the show tomorrow. Jonathan Goldsmith, the original most interesting man, he has to do 11:15 now, so he will join us in about 12 minutes. What happened, Guillermo?
I feel like Kenny G dropped the ball. Like he should have named it Kenny Gin.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He needs help. Branding's everything, man. I'm telling you. And Kenny Jim would have been better. You're right. Let's get him on this week and discuss it with him. No, seriously, he'll come on with us. He loves us. Mike, how do you want to do this? Because I'm going to ask Jonathan Goldsmith if he could voice some of these because people on Twitter are loving these. All right, we did these. Mike, how long ago did we do these? 5 or 6 years ago. So we weren't national yet. So a lot of people are hearing these for the first time. In fact, our TV staff, our production crew, they're hearing them for the first time, and they can't get enough. So how do you want to do this? Should we come up with things for him to voice, or do you want the audience to come up with things for him to voice, if he's willing to do it?
Well, in the next 15 minutes, we need to, man, this is a really difficult ask. Like, and then the interview isn't going to be good because you're just going to, hey, do some production stuff for us. Like, that's what the interview is going to be. You just asking for production requests.
No, I think what I'd like to do, Mike, I did research for this guest. Okay, I actually have questions. Like, Fat Chris does a great job giving us a list of facts, questions, stuff for the interview. I wrote out my own questions, so I am ready to do this. But I figure I'd play one of the ones that we've done for him, see if he likes it, and then ask him if he'd be willing to voice a couple of others, maybe later today or at some point down the road.
I've soured on this idea.
Why?
Because it's a mess and not good radio.
I can't ask him. Can I just ask him, please, Mike?
And do whatever you want.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So a lot of stuff that I'm dealing with up here.
I know you are. You're up in Bristol.
Got to get Jared Allen to voice him because he is much more interesting.
Yeah. Have you seen Doug Kazarian yet?
I don't know what he looks like.
All right. I mean, does anyone walk by that can come on the show as a guest? Anyone? Not that, I mean, I take anyone. I would take anyone up there.
You want me to play who's the most famous person in the Bristol hallway?
Yeah.
And just bring them in? Hey,
yes.
do you want to join us?
Yes.
All right, let me see what I can do.
All right, you going to go out there? Okay. So the 30 for 30 last night, Lakers Celtics. So
wait, I just want to be clear. Like, when I bring them to this chair, I just turn on the mic. Do you want to guess who they are? Like, I don't want to introduce them. They'll just start talking.
Actually, I would like that as a thread throughout the show. So you bring them in, Dominique and I pepper them with maybe 5 questions. Is that fair?
Like, it'll just interrupt you. Like, Roy, is there a sound there? Any sound at all that we can play whenever I alert you that Dominique and Stugotz just have to stop everything and talk to a mystery guest?
And I think the way to do it, by the way, Roy's going to find a sound. I think the way to do it is we'll do it as a competition.
Okay.
So I'll ask a question, guess who it is. You ask a question, you guess who it is. We see who can get it quicker. Get what I'm saying?
I mean, just any sound at all, any fresh sound that we've never really gone to in a situation like this.
Good.
I like the idea now that this show is probably playing in many of the places at ESPN in Bristol right now.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a bunch of people that are just going to be milling about trying to get the eye of Mike Ryan so that they can get on the famous Le Batard show.
Or milling away. You never know. So the 30 for 30 last night, which I loved. So when you hear that sound, that means Mike has a mystery guest up in Bristol. We will ask a series of questions until one of us guesses who he or she is. It seems like a good idea, but it could be awful.
You remember when you had that issue where you confused two of the ladies at ESPN?
Tony Collins and Cassidy Hubbard, yes.
I can't wait till one of them comes on and you mess it up.
Oh,
that's going to be great.
It's going to be so
Please
bad.
find Cassidy.
Now I want to play that sound. All I want to do is play sound from previous shows. The 30 for 30, though, because you and I both enjoyed it. We watched it. I watched most of it. I fell asleep with about 15 minutes to go. Some of the interesting things for me, the fact that the Celtics, Red Auerbach, so ahead of his time, appeared to be a great guy. Obviously, great coach, great GM, legendary. The trash talking that he started in the NBA, as you have pointed out a couple of times, lighting victory cigars while games were still going on, to rub it in the opponent's face, which can you imagine if Steve Kerr did that with like 2 minutes to go, Game 5 of the NBA Finals?
I already really like Steve Kerr, right. But I think I would fall in love with him.
Yes, totally. Those Celtics teams of the 60s that had Bill Russell on them, and for the most part, black players. They won championship after championship after championship, and they can draw attendance. And then in the 70s, the Celtics were led by Dave Cowens and John Havlicek, and their attendance rose. Those teams weren't as good. They were good teams, but not as good, and attendance rose by over 50% in Boston for that NBA team, simply because they were led by white guys instead of black guys.
I mean, race was a big thread in this story, and it goes back to a comment that I made one of the last times I was on the show, is people complain about me, people like me and Dan and Amin and Bomani putting race in sports, but it's always been there. We just suddenly have just refused to take it out. So I appreciated that the story talked about that, even talked about how many of Magic Johnson's teammates consider him an Uncle Tom, which is something that I hadn't heard before.
That was fascinating. So when we got to the 80s portion of it, I was fascinated because I remember reading about that. I knew that, but I was refreshed last night because it was interesting that Magic, who got Paul Westhead fired essentially, was very close with Dr. Buss. The players on that team, Kareem included, did not like that he was so close and spent so much time with the owner. They didn't necessarily trust Magic Johnson.
Right.
And they didn't like that Magic had the ability to get Paul Westhead fired. It turned out to be the right move, but that part was fascinating. It got me thinking, though. The Riley stuff really got me thinking because Riley was a television announcer, and their coach at the time got into a bicycle accident. They asked Riley to coach the team. He didn't want to do it, but he did it. He wanted to go back to the TV booth.
Let me butt in for a second because you keep mischaracterizing the succession of events. So. Right. The coach got in a bicycle accident. I think that was McKinney.
Yep.
Then McKinney was replaced by Westhead, or Westhead replaced McKinney and kind of slowed down the offense, went away from the showtime.
Yes.
Magic was not a fan of that. He ended up getting McKinney fired, and then that's when Pat Riley stepped in. Pat Riley was already on the staff. He had stepped into the staff from the booth with very little coaching experience, but then once he was fired, he became the head coach.
Right. Westhead went away from Showtime, which upset Magic, and Magic said, I want to be traded. I can't play for this guy anymore. And then Westhead got fired, and Magic ultimately got what he wanted, which turned out to be the right thing.
Another thing from that documentary that kind of speaks to the point you're making about coaches is Bill Russell was a player coach.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is and won championships that way, which seems to suggest that coaching is not that important.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Riley, who had little to no coaching experience, was handed a Cadillac, was handed Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and turned into a legendary coach. And you just had it with Mike Brown. You just had it with Mike Brown. And you had it last year with Luke Walton.
Right.
Coaching does not matter in that sport. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. Coaching does not. It matters in other sports. In the NBA, it does not matter. Phil Jackson is not a great coach. Phil Jackson was just the lucky recipient of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's it.
Phil was in the piece last night, too.
Yep.
Hey, buddy, the wait is over.
We've got Joe Harper in here. He's a polygraph specialist.
He's very intimidating. He's a nice man, but physically he's very intimidating, and he has a bullet in his neck.
The man, the myth, the legend, Joe Harper, makes his return June 21st for the second installment of Stugotz.
Are your apologies to Dan sincere after you make fun of his fat face?
Yes.
That'll be a no.
Oh, man.
He said Stugotz is the worst liar since O.J. Simpson.
If the Heat and the Knicks played in the Eastern Conference Finals, would you root for the Heat?
Or nerd.
Yes.
Liar.
Let's go Knicks.
Stugotz, Joe Harper, collision course.
Were you really the big man on campus in college, as you have claimed?
Yes.
Oh, I think that's the truth.
No, it's not.
Oh! June 21st. You won't want to miss this, buddy. Dan Le Batard.
America's fastest growing sports show.
Stugotz.
Because when you start from zero and you have one viewer, you're growing fast.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Jonathan Goldsmith, the original, most interesting man in the world.
Good morning, Stu. How are you?
Oh, wow, this is delightful. What are you laughing at? Before Jonathan, hold on one second. Guillermo, what are you laughing at?
We just had him in queue before we pulled him up.
Yes.
He sounds very happy to be here.
Okay, this is very exciting. Jonathan, I am telling you, if they offered me Steph Curry at the same time today, I would have bumped Steph Curry for you. That's how
I like your taste. Thank you.
You got it, man. I like your taste. I like your style, man. I got
you.
So this is interesting because Dominic Foxworth, who is co-hosting the show with us today, you're the most interesting man in the world. But we were wondering, now that's a character, and it's an iconic commercial character. In fact, I would say by far the most iconic commercial character in the history of television. Wow. But Dominic Foxworth was wondering if the real Jonathan Goldsmith is actually interesting.
Well, I hope so. That's why I wrote this book, which you'll find out if you read it. I've had an extremely interesting, lovely life.
What's the most interesting thing about you? The real you?
The real me, I guess, well, number one, I'm quite different than the character that I played for those 9 years. I guess the thing that most people would find that is interesting about me is the fact that I am really quite a quiet person in many ways. And not like the character that is often found in the smoky bars.
Yes, being quiet.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
So what would you point to, your long acting career, what would you point to as the, like your crowning achievement? You would say, hey, I was a great actor. Watch me in.
Well, I guess the best film that I've ever done, I starred opposite Burt Lancaster in Go Tell the Spartans about Vietnam. That was one of the highlights of my career, but I've done an awful lot of television shows. I've been privileged to work with some of the biggest stars in the world, Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, Henry Fonda, etc. It's been a long career, and you're talking to a lucky guy.
Jonathan Goldsmith with us here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. His new book, Stay Interesting, of course, is available now wherever books are sold. How did you get that job? How did you get that role, Jonathan?
Well, I'll tell you, I had been out of the business about 10 years, pursued some other ventures, and I got a call that they were looking for somebody for a commercial. They didn't know exactly what they were looking for, but it was a Hemingway-esque type of a character, and I had to do an improvisation and end with this sentence, and that's how I arm wrestled Fidel Castro. That started it off. I went down to the audition. I had slept that night. I was in some financial difficulty. I slept in a campground in the back of my truck, and I went down to this commercial appointment, and I didn't know if I still had it. It was 10 years that I had been out of the business, and I got there, and I was really deflated. I looked around, and there were 500 fellows. They all looked like they were there for the Juan Valdez coffee commercial, and I said, I'm wrong for this. These guys are young and handsome, and I was in my 60s. I didn't think it was going to happen. And finally, I wanted to quit. But I didn't. I stayed. I went into the room. It was an empty room. The producers, the clients were all back in New York with the director, and I'm talking to a blank wall with just some audio equipment on it. And I started wondering, what was I going to do? And just before I sat in this chair, I remembered, so obvious, so close to me, channel my dear friend and sailing companion, Fernando Lamas. And that's what I did. And that proceeded to be a long search. We didn't hear much that the first day, except I knew I had them laughing. Called me back a month later, and then 2 months from then, after they had gone all around this country and then South America and Mexico, they called me in, 2 other fellows, dress rehearsal, makeup full on, and I was a lucky guy.
Did you have any idea it would turn into this? It's changed your life. I'm guessing it's changed your life, right?
Oh my God, it certainly has. I mean, it is open. We had no idea in the beginning. Nobody did. It was different, as you know, and but the doors that have opened for me, my God, I was a garbage man when I first went to California. I ended up being President Obama's guest at at Camp David for his birthday with 10 of his best friends in the world. I mean, It was. Everything that had eluded me for 50 years suddenly opened up. The world opened up and changed for me. So,
what did you do at Obama's birthday? Like, what were you doing there?
Well, I had met him when he started his second run for president up in Burlington. It was part of a host committee of I guess about 200 people, and waited for an opportunity to have my picture shot with the president, who I admired a great deal. And he came out, and he said, "Oh, my God, the most interesting man in the world." And he was interested. He stopped, and he talked to me. He took pictures with me. He told me he loved an article that he had read a year before in the New Yorker magazine, and we just hit it off. That instant connection. 6 months later, I get a call from one of his deputies. Would I like to be part of a very special surprise for the president at Camp David? I said, of course. I went there. It is. It's beyond amazing. I mean, there I am in Camp David with the president of the United States, the leader of the free world, me, an ex-garbage man. So it was a wonderful, incredible weekend. I had the pleasure of sitting at the table with him, eating, playing. He's competitive. There were a lot of athletic games, and it was a real highlight of my life.
So, Jonathan, let me give you a couple options. So you said you talked a bit about sailing, and you also talked about being in some financial difficulties before you got the Dos Equis spot. Could you tell me the most interesting, if there's something from either of those times in your life that's super interesting, can you pick one of those and tell us a story about that?
Well, there's nothing terribly interesting about having financial problems. I had started a business, and it was extremely successful. In fact, we licensed 35 foreign countries, and it was going marvelously, and it fell down. There were problems with it, and the company dissolved. And from a huge income and travel constantly and affecting people's lives and helping people in the business world, it ended. And I just came to the conclusion that we are who we are and not what we do. And that kind of sustained me.
I'm sorry to hear that story. I'm glad things turned around. But when you were sailing, you were sailing, you had that life-threatening storm, right?
Well, I had 2 of them, but yes, indeed. That was hair-raising, to say the least. That was a very close call.
His new book, Stay Interesting, is available now wherever books are sold. Jonathan, I want to spend another segment with you. Can I do that? Because I have a million questions for you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I am going to promote this book like crazy, and we might want to talk to you tomorrow as well.
We'll see. I'd love to. Thank you if I can.
But I'm bringing you back for another segment because I have questions about you saving a drowning girl in Malibu, about saving a stranded climber on Mount Whitney.
Okay.
I have a zillion questions for you. We'll do it next. Jonathan Goldsmith on ESPN Radio.
Don Le Batard.
What are you up to these days, Dominique? You're broadcasting for the Hawks, right?
Stugotz.
No, I'm vice president of basketball of the Hawks, part owner.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I'm so mad right now. It's about as angry as I get. This is it right here. I'm not mad at anyone except for Jonathan Goldsmith.
And he deserves your anger.
Yep. I mean, I am furious right now because I was excited. You guys know when I'm excited to have a guest on. And I had a bunch of questions for him. And we had a flow going. And we were having fun. And Jonathan Goldsmith, he ruined it.
Pooped on it.
He really did. Dominique Foxworth in with us today. Le Batard's coming back tomorrow. We talked about the 30 for 30. I never finished my rant. It's okay. That just erase that segment from your memories, okay? All of you. The shipping container, the audience, me, Dominique, Kevin Nagandi, Mike Ryan, everyone involved, okay? Except Jonathan Goldsmith. You remember it forever because you ruined a good radio show. Okay?
Sear that in the back of your memory.
Jeez.
That's the most interesting thing that ever happened to you.
I mean, he's never come on the show again. He is never welcome on this show again unless he calls back before 1 o'clock and then put him right on. Because I still have questions for him. You wrote an article about the Jets, my New York Jets, for the Undefeated.
Oh yeah, I just find a lot of what's happening with the Jets very interesting because their head coach Todd Bowles was 10-6 his first year, and then he was 5-11 last year, and he's in the third year of his contract, which happens to be kind of a make or break year for him, especially considering that he's in a 4-year deal. So. Is he the 10-6 coach or is he the 5-11 coach? And there's a bunch of pressure on him to find out. In this offseason, McCagnon, the GM, has done nothing but send away all the players of consequence. So I wrote a lot about what's happening there, how the pressure on Bowles is mounting, and how this season, I started this actually a funny story. The lead of the piece was just about Todd Bowles being a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, but. Right. That got taken out. The editors didn't like that, but I thought it was a funny analogy, saying that Todd Bowles is entering the NFL season, which is an ass-kicking contest, and he's entering it with just one leg. So anyway, there's a lot of detail in there, and it changed a lot of what I thought about Woody Johnson for the positive, which surprised me, and I put some of those things in there. But it was just all very interesting, and knowing that Todd Bowles is coaching for his life, while the team seems to be building for the future and trying to angle to get a shot at the number 1 pick and getting Sam Darnold.
It does seem like they're tanking, although tanking in the NFL is really difficult to do. I mean, you played, it's right. Difficult to do. But it does appear, whether David Harris, Eric Decker, all the guys they've let go, it does appear like they're tanking, which is problematic for Todd Bowles because I'm not certain if it's a make it or break it year for him.
I mean, it is.
Do you think? Well, hold on.
Yeah,
but if management is purposely tanking, okay, do you think Bowles is in on it? And if he's in on it, then maybe they're saying, hey, Todd, we're not going to give you a great chance to succeed this year. You're still going to be our guy. We're doing this because we want to get a high draft. We want to get one of these quarterbacks next year.
You think,
which is insane, by the way, considering how many quarterbacks they have drafted over the last 3 or 4 years.
But they've never had the number 1 pick. They were 8-8 the season when they could have tanked and potentially gotten Andrew Luck, was the last kind of really big name, can't miss prospect. And I think that those experiences and Woody Johnson owning the team since 2000, I think he's starting to realize that the coaching position isn't the problem. He's actually done a good job of hiring coaches. He's hired some pretty good coaches. And to his credit also, even though like you would make certain assumptions about Woody Johnson being that he's affiliated with Donald Trump and he's a prominent Republican, he gave Herman Edwards his first coaching job. So he and Todd Bowles, so he's given 2 black coaches their first opportunity. So that bodes well for him, and he's done a good job hiring coaches. But what they haven't been able to have, and I think the reason why they've been inconsistent, is that they haven't had a quarterback, which is why they're going this route now. I don't think that Todd Bowles is in on it. I think that's a lower probability, but think about it. In New York, he goes 5-11. Then he follows it by assuming this year they'll be 5-11 or worse. You think that the New York media and fans are going to let Woody Johnson continue with Todd Bowles?
Probably not.
Yeah,
but I don't know if Woody Johnson's affected by that. And I will tell you, in terms of quarterbacks, there is a free agent quarterback who happens to be black that I would like the Jets to sign, and for whatever reason, Woody Johnson won't sign him.
And maybe the part of the reason is they might make him too good. If they're trying to get Sam Darnold, they don't need somebody who might mess around and throw for 300 and run for 100 and get you a fluky win.
See, that's interesting because I thought it was his affiliation with Trump that was keeping him from hiring. But that's actually an interesting theory that I had not heard, that it might make them too good.
Who knows? I'm just throwing things at a wall.
Jared Allen coming up next.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Dan Batard.
Yanni Adababoo.
Stugotz.
Giannis Adababumbo.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Mike, why are we playing this song?
This song's great.
Yes, but why are we playing this song?
That's a song that I dedicate to Roy. Chris, Cody, and I sing that song to Roy. It's going to be our new Friday thing. For a good time.
Okay, I think you played this song because you think Jared Allen likes this song. This is the type of music.
I mean, it'd be on brand, and Jared Allen's always here for a good time.
It's George Strait. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
All right, Jared Allen, who joins us in the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Did you like that song?
Oh, if you don't like George Strait, you're not American.
Okay. I guess Mike and Roy were right. Okay, my bad.
Hey, Jared, we are happy to have you here. So earlier in the show...
But wait a second. I just found out I'm not American because I don't like that song. I think that song is dreadful. It makes me sad, Alan.
Oh, yeah. What's with this? You're just not a happy American.
Yes, an unhappy American.
Anyway, Stu cut me off, but earlier in the show, we had on the former most interesting man in the world from Dos Equis, and I have been yelling for the entire show that we don't need him because we have you, and you're far more interesting, so there's a lot of pressure on you to live up to the hype.
Oh, goodness.
For this
that guy
interview.
had a whole commercial campaign based around how interesting he was.
Yeah, but
he's
he's a fraud. He's a studio gangster. We discovered that. He's not very interesting in real life. He's just pretending to be.
Dominic, he rescued a stranded climber on Mount Whitney, the real Jonathan Goldsmith.
I didn't say that he hadn't done interesting things, but you cannot convince me that interview was interesting. I asked him straight up, tell me something that you've done that's interesting. And his next words were, well, this isn't that interesting, and then proceeded to tell me a story that was not interesting.
It was about to get interesting, and then
you know
he ruined
who won't
the show.
do that?
Which made it interesting. You see how he did that?
Yes.
It was so uninteresting that he made it interesting.
Exactly. Jared Allen is with us. He is with us on behalf of Courtyard, the official hotel of the NFL. We'll get to that in just a minute and what he's doing with them in just a couple of minutes here. So what is the most interesting thing about Jared Allen?
Oh, these days, goodness, probably that I'm doing my best to be skinny fat, you know? Everybody asks me you look like you lost weight, you've been working out hard, and I always tell them, nah, the key is if you lose the muscle, you lose more weight than if you lose the fat, because, muscle weighs more than fat. So I just working on my dad bod and hanging out.
In Iowa State, that's where you went to school, right, Jared?
Idaho State.
I can't read. Idaho State. So you are well known for your fights at Idaho State. Do you remember, is there any memorable fights?
Oh, goodness. They're all memorable because I don't think they ended well for me personally because I always got in trouble for them. I actually told a story the other day. This one was pretty awesome. So we were at a party at one of our football players' houses, and it was the middle. It's Idaho. It's Pocatello, Idaho. So if you're not familiar with Pocatello, it's very rural, right? So we're out by the train tracks, and where the house party was at, and kind of rumor gets started. Some people are going to show up. And I'm like, man, things might get weird. And so my buddy, who had gotten sucker punched by one of our other players about a month earlier, in the locker room, was like, hey, if a fight breaks out tonight, I'm totally going over. I'm just going to blindside, so-and-so. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to do that. They're tight end. He was always running his mouth. They're my good friends, but he could, try to put it this way. I think my 2-year-old daughter has a better chance of throwing a punch successfully than him, right? So sure enough, and it's dead of winter, it's about 3 feet of snow on the ground. Sure enough, later in the night, scuffle breaks out. Everybody's kind of into it. I look over and I see my buddy sprinting as fast as he can through the snow. But you know how most people, I don't know, and I don't assume everybody's familiar with how to throw a punch, but most people might run up, square up with somebody, they might have words and throw a punch from a somewhat athletic position. So this gentleman, he ran literally probably 20 yards with his arm completely cocked back, straight as an arrow, with his fist clenched, pumping his 90-degree pump in his left arm, trying to get through the snow. Swung so hard, right, and missed this gentleman by at least 3 feet and fell face first into the snow, and then got back up like nothing happened, and nobody. The only people that knew what happened was everybody that was watching him run through the snow like an idiot. And he comes back over. He's like, I'm like, what did you do? He's like, I don't know, dude. I saw him. He wasn't looking, and I ran, and I don't know. He just completely whiffed, airmailed it. And so the cool part about that was so embarrassing for him that everybody was kind of laughing and kind of broke up the rest of the scuffle.
How delicious is poisonous blowfish?
Oh, I know. I never got to try it. That was my whole. I wanted to try blowfish, but I haven't been to Japan. I feel like that's the only safest place to try it. You know.
But you would, though. You'd eat poisonous blowfish just to see how delicious
I would.
it was?
So my stepdad used to do a lot of work in Japan, business in Japan, and so he's been over a lot of times. He said that you got to go to the right space. I got a lot of friends from Hawaii that go to Japan, and you got to make sure you're at the right spot because they just trim just enough on that your lips tingle a little bit. And supposedly, I might be wrong, but this is the rumor I heard that it's one of those, like, if you drop in one of those restaurants, if you drop your chopsticks, it's kind of like things aren't going good for you. So I always think it would be funny to get some of the blowfish and then just drop a whole bunch of chopsticks and freak everybody out.
Jared Allen with us here on ESPN Radio. He is with us on behalf of Courtyard, the official hotel of the NFL. You ran with the Bulls in Pamplona, is that correct?
I did, yes, 2007.
How was that experience?
That was amazing, especially when you don't speak a lick of Spanish, right? And then your buddy who's with you who speaks Spanish really isn't helping you out in any means, and they push you back so there's like a start point, right? And right before a place called Hamburger Corner, which, just for those who don't know anything about that, that's not a good name for a corner to be called Hamburger Corner. It means a lot of things are getting beat up there. So they put us back. I'll never forget. We're sitting there. It's like 7 in the morning, and everybody's running. And I'm head and shoulders taller than everybody out there, And even the cops, they're all speaking Spanish and pointing at. Everybody's laughing at me, and all I'm thinking is like, this can't be a good thing. I don't know what they're saying, and they're all laughing at me, and I'm pretty sure something bad is going to happen to me. Luckily, I made it through unscathed, and we had a blast. But I was there. I'm not sure if everybody remembers. You remember when, like, it was the cover of USA Today where the guy had a horn going through his calf and coming out through his knee?
Yep. Yes.
That was happened literally right behind me, and so yeah, that was pretty intense. It's something that I highly recommend people do.
I saw the Father's
getting your horn through your knee somewhere.
I saw the Father's Day video that you did for Courtyard. It was very touching. It made me wonder about you as a father, since you are kind of a bit of an unorthodox person. Are there any part of your fatherhood strategies that are as unorthodox as we know you to be? I'm
actually pretty conservative. I'm pretty conservative. I was I was way more interesting back in my younger days. But no, my thing is I always try to tell people that, I don't think there's a right way, there's a wrong way to father. Everybody's going to have their own different techniques. But, my style is I try to take everything good from my childhood. Me and my dad are really close, so I try to take everything good that I learned throughout my childhood and then try and change the things that I disagreed with, and then being a father of 2 girls is a little different. But for me, they're literally are my best friends, man. My family is everything to me. My girls, I got one of my daughters hanging out with me right now. But they're daddy's girls, and we go everywhere together. We fish, and so for me, I think too, is being a father of girls and obviously love the outdoors and do stuff like that. We try to expose them to everything from water sports, snow sports to soccer and ballet, dance, and I will get in a tutu and I will get down.
Respect.
I will say this: me and my daughter had our first father-daughter dance a couple months ago, and pure domination. I'm just telling you, we never left the dance floor. Pure dripping sweat. The kids, the dads and the other kids weren't ready for that. It got real.
How old are they, Jared?
It's a winner.
I was 5 and 2-year-old. For me, I think that was so cool about being able to do this Courtyard Marriott shoot is I truly do. I think being a father is one of the greatest things ever, and obviously I had so much respect for parenting and fathering back in the day that I always said I wasn't going to get married and have kids until I was ready to settle down and focus 100% on it. But it's just so many, there's so many statistics just about the different life a kid can have by having a father in it, right? And so for me, it's always been something that I've loved the fact that I've had a close relationship with my dad, and now being a dad, I really take great pride in being there for my kids and showing them love and teaching them things along the way. And so when I had an opportunity to make this video a surprise to this guy who, obviously it was kind of foreshadowing. He had two girls in sport, kind of stuff like that. So it was interesting to see the relationship that he had and get to talk to him and really understand how close that family was, and for them to genuinely want to surprise their dad because they appreciate him so much. It was just a cool part to be a part of. Like I said, he was so excited by so many things too that he missed like lead-ins. He missed some of the surprises we had because he was so fascinated with what was going on, and then he got 4 Super Bowl tickets at the end of it, and that blew his mind. So it was a fun day.
Where can people see the videos, Jared?
Yeah, you go to the Courtyard YouTube page and share the videos with everybody, especially on Father's Day. I just think it's such a good time to just to share what fathers are doing and encourage those who are just encourage fathers to continue to do it right and celebrate those who are doing it right.
All right, let me tell you something though, because I have twin 13-year-old daughters. Okay, and so that was
I need to be talking to you now.
Yes, you do. You should never stop talking to me. I will guide you all the way through this because that was a very touching story you told about you and your daughter on the dance floor, and I am telling you, when they get to 13, that will no longer happen, and all you'll be living for. I am telling you this right now, Jared. All you'll be living for at that stage of your life and at that stage of your fatherhood is to embarrass your children at all costs. That's it. That's all you want to do.
Absolutely. That's where I'm going to learn even just the worst dance moves possible, and I'm just going to get it.
Yes, exactly. I'm telling you, that's what I live for. That's all I live for with my kids right now. I just want to embarrass them at any chance. Any opportunity I can, I want to embarrass them.
Yeah, I got a niece and nephew that go to school down the road from me, and I swear one of these days I'm going to pick them up in my pink caddy and like a Speedo just out front, like, hey, Kyle, where you at?
Pink caddy.
Yes, yeah, pink caddy. He's more interesting. You're right. You win.
He's the most interesting.
All right, Jared, we appreciate the time again. He's with us on behalf of the Courtyard, the official hotel of the NFL. This was a lot of fun, man. We appreciate it, and happy Father's Day to you, man.
Oh, happy Father's Day to you guys, too, and I appreciate it. It's always good talking with you guys.
All right, wait till the boys start knocking on their doors. Bye.
Hey, these stats are not going to read themselves.
All right, Advance Auto Parts. Are you the kind of person who'd rather be in your garage under the hood? Then Advance Auto Parts has just what you're looking for. They can help you get the quality parts you want quickly to help your car running smoothly. Whether you want to change your rotors, install a new air filter, or replace your brake pads, they have the quality parts you want at an affordable price. Their knowledgeable team members believe nothing should stop you from getting your project done, and they are committed to helping you get there. There's an Advance Auto Parts store near you. Find the quality parts you want at your local Advance Auto Parts store today. Advance Auto Parts, let's get you back on the road. Oh, my God, there's a mystery guest. Oh, my God. Mike Ryan's up in Bristol. He is dragging people out of the hallway into the studio with him. He has a new mystery guest, a celebrity, an ESPN personality who is sitting in a chair right now. I will ask the first question. First off, I need to hear your voice. Hello, mystery guest.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Oh, no. Oh, no. What sport do you cover?
I cover a little bit of everything, yeah?
Dominique, I'm going to guess Liam.
Not Liam. I love that chap, though.
Okay. Dominique, go ahead.
Oh, masking the voice. Not fair.
Dominique Foxworth. Love him, yeah? Hungry like a fox, yeah? Sly.
I think I know who it is. What's your favorite sport?
Rugby.
You have to be honest. Have to honestly answer the questions.
No, I think I have it because I know this person so well. Adnan.
Oh, yes!
Yes!
Stugotz from way downtown! Yes! That's what I'm talking about!
Save the show!
I can't do no phony accent, Stugotz, no!
Dan Le Batard.
Thank you, Google.
Stugotz.
Thank you, Google.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I'm not even certain what we've done today. I know the first 2.5 hours, local hour, great. First hour and a half, great. Goldsmith was about to get great, about to get real. And since about 11:30, I have no idea what we've done. I have no idea. We've had an interesting discussion, I think, about your article for The Undefeated, about the New York Jets and Todd Bowles and that situation, but I don't know. The show is moving way too quickly. Everyone in there is exhausted. Mike's up in Bristol. Dan's not here. It's complete chaos. It's chaos. How do you feel?
I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, it gets a little messy sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
Sometimes you try some tricks, some maneuvers that people aren't ready for, and they're like, oh, I don't like that there. Yeah. And then you move on. So maybe that. I wasn't a fan of the Goldsmith interview before it even happened. So I entered that in a bad frame of mind. So I'll take a little bit of responsibility.
Fact, Chris.
We should probably say who that is. Just Goldsmith.
He's the original most interesting man
Jonathan.
in the world from the Dos Equis commercials.
And he's not that interesting.
Oh, he's pretty interesting. I was looking forward to talking to him. It's fine. I'm past it. We've moved past it. I'm in a better place. Adnan saved the show.
It's a hero.
Adnan and Kevin Nagandi saved the show. Mike is up in Bristol. He's just literally pulling people out of the hallway, and he is sitting him in a chair, and then Dominique and I are asking a series of questions to guess who the mystery guest is.
They didn't save the show. You saved the show.
Thank you.
Because they were doing their best to obscure their voice so that you wouldn't be able to guess them, and you guessed them and given bad answers. Adnan's talking about his favorite sport is rugby?
Yeah.
Maybe that's true, but I don't think it's true.
No, it's not.
Trying to throw you off, but you on the scent.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You always got my back, man. You really do. I love
That's
you,
what
man.
friends are for.
I feel so comfortable when I'm with you. I really do. Standing next to you, sitting next to you, it doesn't matter. I just feel comfortable when I'm with you. I do. Is that weird? Roy, we have Mike Tyson on the show tomorrow. I want Dominique to hear these two stories. So Mike Tyson's on. Dan's back tomorrow. Mike Tyson going to join the show tomorrow. And you never know what you're going to get with Mike Tyson. We have gotten the good Mike Tyson. We have gotten the uneven, tired, cranky Mike Tyson. I'm going to play both for you, and I'm not sure which Mike Tyson is actually better for this radio show. Okay? I am not certain. Because the first time we wanted Mike Tyson, Dan loves boxing. In fact, I think Dan has said a number of times that boxing is his favorite sport to cover. And he loves UFC. Dan likes the fight game, okay? Likes to cover it, okay? He's interested in it. And so he wanted Mike Tyson for the longest time. And I finally got him on. So the first time we had him on, we got the good Mike Tyson. Let's play the good Mike Tyson first.
Normally, me and Robin was going through our divorce. Even though we were going through our divorce, we would have sex every day and stuff. And every night after we had our deposition, after I said, "You're a cheating pig," and she might have said, "You're a husband that beats his wife," and do all that stuff. We're talking horrible about one another. But every night we're sleeping with each other, right? So I said, before I go to my lawyer and tell him how much these people robbed me and they're horrible, I'm going to go by and I'm going to have sex with my ex-wife. So as I go by, I ring the doorbell, nobody's there, and as I get ready to leave, I see somebody driving up, and it's dumb.
Mike, I mean, I can't. He had to his pants. He had to his pants.
Who the heck Brad Pitt think he is? People's wives. His wives.
You tell him, champ. That's right. So that is the first time Mike Tyson was on with us, telling a classic Brad Pitt story. So you have that. That's your option, because we're going to have him on tomorrow. And again, we never know what we're going to get when Mike Tyson comes on the show. That was good Mike Tyson. Here's bad Mike Tyson.
Mike, how'd you feel that went? How'd you feel like that went? Was that okay for you?
No, what do you think about it? What do you think? Since you think you're being smart a little bit about it, what do you think how it went?
No, not being smart. I would not do that to Mike Tyson. I'm not being smart. It's just our experiences with you have been up and down. I am not being smart. No, sir. I say it in the most respectful way possible.
Well, you're the interviewer, so you tell me how it went, buddy.
Uneven, I would say. Sometimes the questions were okay. Sometimes the answers were short and didn't seem like you wanted the questions.
I'm sorry. I just got out of bed this second, and I'm sorry I can't give you the interview that you anticipated. Probably in the next interview I will be able to do that, buddy.
Okay. I'm sorry if I've upset you, Mike. Thank you for being on with us.
No, you didn't upset me, because if you upset me, you would have known about it.
Okay. Well,
I felt like you know
regardless,
about it, yeah.
Mike, your aura is such.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
That last voice you hear in there is the voice of Bomani Jones, who was a guest co-host on the show, and he was terrified by the entire thing. Could not believe that Dan just wouldn't let it go. Bomani saved us. He saved Dan. Which Mike Tyson do you prefer for this radio show, Dominique?
I mean, I think bad Mike's definitely better. And Buddy? Oh.
Don Le Batard.
Is this a middle school show or a big boy show?
Stugotz.
It's kind of a middle school show.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
We're proud to share that Mike and Mike have been nominated for the National Radio Hall of Fame. And this vote will be determined by fans. Vote by text or online at radiovote.com. Text 49400 and send the message 70 for Mike and Mike. Again, text 49400 and send the message 70 to vote for Mike and Mike. Or go to www.radiovote.com and cast your vote there. One vote is permitted by cell and email address. Voting closes June 19th. Sad to see that show end.
Yep, both of those guys very deserving. It is sad.
It is very sad.
I thought when we were doing radio locally for a very long time, and I would always come in talking about Mike and Mike, and Dan would make fun of me because Dan doesn't listen to any sports radio, not just their show. He just doesn't listen to sports radio. He does this show, and he's gone, and he comes back, and he does the next day's show. That's what he does. He does not listen to sports radio. So he used to make fun of me for how much I listen to them.
Yeah.
And I listen to them because they're excellent. And
it's been a sports staple for a lot of Americans for a long time.
No doubt. They're America's morning sports radio show. And it is sad. It is very sad to hear that they are going in opposite directions.
Yep. So, it's all over a fight over whose name got to go first. Mike's so petty.
Can't believe Mike won out.
Yeah.
Mike must be upset. Anyway, let's update the polls here.
Oh, man, I'm going to get fired.
Just don't get me fired, man.
I won't, buddy.
I didn't make millions of dollars in the NFL, okay?
You also spend above your means.
Oh, way above my means.
You've probably made a few million. It's not fair that, like, my contract and stuff is, like, public record. Like, everyone, if you're going to put NFL players and professional athletes' salary out there, I want to know how much everybody makes. Put it out there so I can judge you. Say that you're getting overpaid for whatever your job is. You.
Let's update the polls real quick because I want to get to at least one of your topics today, okay? At least.
All right.
I mean, you provided us with a list of topics. We love having you here. I love our listeners that they love today's show. I love you guys for loving our show. Dan will be back tomorrow. The Twitter poll is brought to you by Dell. Need help finding the right Dell PCs with Intel Core processors for your business? Call 877-BY-DELL to talk to a Dell small business tech advisor today. Did you realize that at one point in his life, Pat Riley was Stugotz? He was. We learned that during the 30 for 30. 73% of the audience said no. Is Stugotz better looking with age? 65% of the audience said no. 65% is wrong. Who was more interesting? The most interesting man in the world or Jared Allen? Jared Allen got 56% of the votes. Boom. If you had the secret to making millions, would you sell it to someone else for $29.99? 82% of the audience said no. Stugotz, idiot or idiot savant? Idiot savant, 60% of the audience.
Nailed it.
Should Stugotz's mom be allowed to write books about how to raise children?
I forgot about that.
69% of the audience said no. If I'm your offspring, you can't do it. All right, let's go to Dominique's topics here. There's a list of topics. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Mike Ryan's up in Bristol. We have instructed him all morning long here. If he sees someone out in the hallway that would be of interest to us, a celebrity, to bring him into the studio, and we will play a game called Mystery Guest. I am leading 2-1 right now. I got Nagandi. I got Adnan Verk. We both got Rosillo. That's a tie. And then you got Randy Scott very quickly without asking a question, which is a world record. Congratulations to you. All right, Mystery Guest, I need to hear your voice.
Hi, Stu.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. All right, let me I get first question?
You got it.
Okay. What sport do you cover, Mystery Guest?
I cover all sports here.
I hate when they keep doing this. All right, Dominique, you're wait, I have to guess. Okay, I have to guess. Cover all sports. So that would mean Sports Center Anchor, I think. Let's do this one together. You want to do it together?
Sure, let's do it together.
Sports Center Anchor covers all sports. I'm going to go with, I have a guess.
Go for it.
Lindsay Zarniak.
Negative. You and I have worked together, or so you think.
All right, Dominique, that should make it easy for you. I mean, you referenced this earlier in the show.
I did. And which means that I would like to lob it up to you. That's the only right thing to do, since this is...
Stu, you told me if I ever needed advice to go for you and to reach out.
which you haven't.
Introduced me to Dan. You
Right.
introduced me to Mike.
Okay.
This is your chance.
I now know who it is, but by the way, you haven't reached out to me for advice, so you learn very quickly that I am not the person to go to for any sort of good, positive advice. So congratulations to you. Tony Collins.
It's actually Cassidy.
Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Get out of here, Cassidy!
I'm so messing with you. It's Tony. You got it.
Tony, you get out of here! Cassidy, get out of here!
You still can't tell our
Double
voice
guy!
support.
Get him again! I'm just
done
joking.
With you, Stugotz.
It's actually Cassidy. Or Tony.
I have a headache. Cassidy
it's
out of here.
Antonieta,
Tony
it's
out of here.
Antonieta.
Nagandi, everyone, Rosillo. Get out of here! Who was it?
It was Linda Cohn.
Oh, it was Linda Cohn!
You can listen to the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, and you can watch on ESPNU.